Are you clicking it to be judgy and make yourself feel better about your own finances? That's all good. I'm here for it. Let's come on over. Maybe we can both learn something. Wow. At the time of filming this, I have, 12 subscribers. I get excited when I have 20 views on a video. And I don't know if that makes it more or less crazy feeling to me that I'm already talking to you about something as intimate as finances. But here we go. I'm Olivia. I like to make story times for right now about international and domestic travel. I am a travel nurse by profession, but my passion is just seeing this whole world. And I started this because I wanted to share that with you, whether you're someone who wants to see it as something for inspiration and tips, or if you just like watching someone else do it and for whatever reason that doesn't really fit into your lifestyle to do it yourself right now. And along this journey, I want to also be transparent about bad travel experiences. You can look over, I've got this video up here about, a bad thing that happened to me when I was traveling and things we should look out for and why it's important to stay honest about that. And beyond that, the finances of it, because let's be real, travel is expensive. And I feel like it is pretty common that we see all these influencers making their beautiful reels being like, oh, look what I did. And you're like, how do you do that? And a lot of times there's never a clear answer. And there was even one girl who just straight up said, when my family asked me how to afford it, I say, I don't. I just pay minimum credit card bills. And to be honest, I've got a little bit of debt story to share with you today too. So far, we've only talked about my international trips related to study abroad, 2 small trips down to Peru, and a group trip to Ireland. And honestly, all of those were out of pocket. I used scholarship and family support for my study abroad trip. I just paid straight out of pocket for my Peru trips because, for one, it was just going down to Latin America, so it wasn't even that expensive. Plane tickets were even cheaper because it was still during some restrictions where it was harder to get into the country and leave the country in the first place. And then the Ireland trip, I was making more money than I had ever made in my whole life, and it was basically just extra money I didn't know what to do with. Then things started to get a little more crazy. So I was on my second assignment out in Wyoming, which we talked about on Monday if you want to check that out, if you want to hear about travel nurse things. And tomorrow we're going to be talking more about this, but basically it was in my assignment in Wyoming that I'm like, started dreaming of these crazy big trips, much further away for much longer, because travel nursing did technically enable me to do that. But I kind of overshot it. I overshot it by a lot. Because the thing is, to this day still, that job in Washington, where right after I went to Ireland and it was just a bunch of extra spare money, that was my best paying job I've ever had for the amount of work I was doing and all those sorts of things. And I guess I just expected the gravy train to keep going, and I made plans according to that. And then it kind of got to the point where it's like, oh man, how am I actually going to make this happen? I was still making good money in Wyoming, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as much as Washington, and I was getting called off pretty frequent. I was planning to work a lot more overtime than I could because it was a critical access facility, which means a very small hospital, so they really didn't need me any more days than they had me scheduled. Sometimes they didn't even need me on the days they scheduled me. So I was like, well, I have a bunch of extra money that I need and I don't know where it's going to come from. I did everything I could. I was pulling from savings that I thought I wouldn't be pulling from. I even ended up ultimately taking out a personal loan. And I would use the things like I thought I was being smart about it. I was paying for something with a credit card so then I could use those points to pay for other hotels. But I was not being budget savvy either. I went total splurge mode on some of the hotels and experiences that we did that were definitely not necessary. But in any case, I even with the credit cards and everything, I ultimately was like, okay, it looks like I'm gonna have to take a personal loan. So yes, me at 23 took out a personal loan to go on a vacation. I don't love calling it a vacation, but I know that that's kind of what the most critical person would call it. to me, it was definitely more journey and travel. But at the end of the day, it was a non-essential experience. So, yeah, you can do and think what you want with that. And while we were actually on the trip, which spanned over the course of 5 months, where I was getting absolutely no income, I just had the savings I had managed to, put together from both leftovers from the personal loan that I hadn't spent and also my own saved money. But I was supplementing us with credit cards as well. And I remember the rock bottom of it. Well, there were 2 rock bottom moments. One of them was when we were in Europe and I was trying to buy, I think, some underwear because my luggage had gotten lost and the card bounced. And when I called my company, they said I'd maxed it out. And I was like, oh no, I just maxed the card out. And from there, we had to actually change up plans. We had to skip a whole country because I realized I had to do some real fast budget control and damage control. Then when I did finally get back home, it was a whole other financial nightmare, which I'm making a video about that on Monday about the assignment itself. But essentially, I had an assignment that didn't end up working out for me. And that was a time when I really needed that income. I mean, I was pretty much just at my very end of everything I could do to make it work until that paycheck started rolling in. And then the paycheck cut off a lot sooner than I was expecting it to. And without family support, I think I really don't know what I would have done. But, luckily I work in a profession where it is very easy and quick to get another job. And I had a pretty short period in between when I didn't have the paycheck and I needed and when I had one again. But that was scary. And if just one little factor would have been a little bit more off, gosh, I don't know what would have happened. So I was definitely kicking myself, not so much for going on the trip. I'm going to sit here and say I still would have done it. But I was kicking myself, for going to do all those fancy extra things that really weren't necessary. Because I'm like, wow, I'm drowning right now because of all those extra little things. Well, I'm sure you don't want to keep hearing me ramble, right? You want to hear numbers. So we'll talk about numbers. This is, 2 years post all the damage I did to myself, plus some student loans, because I have those too. I didn't get everything with scholarships, but I have zero regrets for my student loans because, for one, they're very tiny and manageable for me, and I do consider them a true investment because I've made back at least tenfold already what I put into that schooling. And it's my career that allows me to do these things. Well, my career and this debt we're about to talk about that allows me to do all the things I love. So no regrets on these student loans, which are $182.50 a month minimum payment. They are a total of about, let me see. We're going to be reading off number for number and putting them up on the screen, okay? $16,190.76 in student loans total. I did not pay during the pause. I paid down maybe $1,000 of them, and then I was just like, you know what? I don't have any faith in loan forgiveness, but if it were to happen, I would feel silly paying all these things that they didn't say I don't even have to pay. So that's why I know some people were like, go ahead and tackle the loans. I wasn't one of those. So now I'm paying that $182 a month. And then the personal loan, which was not as good of a decision/investment, is $341 a month. And there is still $14,000. I have a hard time with numbers, forgive me. But anyways, $14,922.62. So that's going to be there for a while because I've literally only made like $4,000 progress so far because interest is so fun, isn't it? And then there's the credit cards. Nothing's maxed out anymore. I've been being a lot more responsible. I do still use them. Do you guys watch Caleb Hammer? I used to like him more. I feel like he's gotten a little bit more clickbaity and extreme lately, but sometimes I still like listening. And I feel like he would tell me I'm not a credit card person, but I like to think of myself as capable of reform for it, because I really do like those points, and you can play it right. I just need to be more disciplined. Anyways, I have a good 6 or 7 credit cards, but I only have 3 with balances. So we'll go from smallest to largest. My Capital one is $33 a month. It has a total of $1,059.94. And honestly, I realistically am thinking I'm going to be able to have that paid off by the end of the year. And then my Discover is $150 per month. That has a total of $6,747.42. And then my last and biggest one is from JP Morgan and Chase. That one is $575 a month, I believe, for the minimum payment. I always pay more than the minimum on this one to keep up with the interest. But $575 at minimum a month. And that one has $15,794.42 on it. So that totals me up at a minimum of $1,281.50 a month in debt payments. And the total debt itself is, wow, that hurts to say out loud, but it's $54,715.16. So, and Dave Ramsey, all the finance guys, but especially Dave Ramsey, would be beating me up right now, verbally. Sorry, Dave Ramsey, because honestly, I'm saving up for another big trip, and I could probably have all or most of this paid off by the end of the year, but I want to travel instead. And instead, what I'm doing is making a plan so I can manage these payments while I'm on my trip, as well as expenses during the trip. And I'm not using any more debt to go on more trips. I'm using all of my own money. So that's my little compromise to myself. I'm like, we're still doing this, but we're not going more into debt for it. And we're going to, of course, make sure we're paying the debts we do have while we're doing it. So yeah, I feel like most people would say the most responsible thing to do would be to just go ahead and get rid of all of it right away. But that's just not how I'm choosing to do it. Instead, I'm just learning how to actually have a budget when I travel. We'll be talking a lot about that for my fall trip. I'm going to be doing numbers. I actually, for everything I've spent so far, have made a very detailed running list because I'm trying to keep better track of my money, because it's all has to be my money from now on. So yeah, in case you needed to hear it again, because I feel like I'm saying it a lot these days, don't compare yourself to the people on social media or even your friends, because you don't know, they might have this too. I can say that these trips that I'm going to be talking to you about from here on out, those were paid with a combination of my own money and somebody else's money that I am still working on paying back. I'm still so grateful that I went, and I'm grateful that I'm in a position where $1,200 a month, almost $1,300 a month in debt payment is doable for me, while also saving for future travel. But I would not recommend you do it for yourself. Do it with your own money, and just do small things to make your life more exciting and cool until then. I'm working to be a better me and a better role model now that I'm on camera for others. And I want to tell you with confidence that the trips you'll be coming along for starting this fall are going to be paid 100% with my own money from me. No more credit cards, no more personal loans, and we're going to be working on tackling this monster. Maybe we'll do a little update at the end of the year before I go on a very large trip that we'll be talking about later. But just to give you a little bit of suspense, I'm so excited. Anyways, I'm definitely getting rambly. I feel a little bit more comfortable on camera now, but this is definitely an uncomfortable topic. I hope this has given you some kind of insight, or maybe just been interesting hearing the numbers. Feel free to leave any kind of comment down below, but maybe keep them a little nice, even if they're harsh. Well, I hope that you have a great end to your week, and please come back tomorrow because this Friday we're going to start talking about how I got to planning this big trip that got me all this beautifulness and also a million memories that I would have not have traded for the world. All right, so see you tomorrow. Bye.